they will burn you alive. That is only difference. So if you agree that you have done wrong, you are lucky. They will strangle you. This is the sort of treatment that was being given. Of course, if you go back to our culture, our history, we also see so many things. The Sati, how Dalits are treated, how the OBCs are treated, all that, of course. That we all know, so I will not go into that again and again. These are the things which we have seen, which we have experienced, and which still happen today. 10 years back when I was here, a woman...
For your valuable insight. Now I would like to request Dr. Vikas Das, President of CLAP, that is Community for Legal Aid to Poor, to take the chair. Our father of nation, Mahatma Gandhi once said, "There are many reasons I would die for, but there is not a single reason for which I would kill a person." So with this, I would like to invite Dr. Omkarnath Mahanti, former Vice Chancellor of BPUT, to address the gathering with his kind words.
A very good afternoon to everyone present here, Mr. Chairman, and the very patient audience that I find in front of me. First and foremost, I wish to express my gratitude and appreciation to Dr. Acharya for having invited me to share some thoughts. As I was listening to a wonderful speech by the previous speaker, Mr. Nayak, I was actually essentially captivated, so much so that I was wishing within myself if the talk would go on, and I would be listening to him, because of the fact that he has experienced things in his own life, he still is experiencing, which most of us present here haven't done, or we are not even aware of. So, be that as it may, since I have been invited to share some of my own thoughts on the subject of building a violence-free world through compassion and reason, I'm quite sure a topic of this kind can always engage the attention of people for easily 2-3 days, even more. Essentially because of the fact that there are many dimensions to this issue. But what Mr. Nayak was telling is very important. And while listening to him, one did realize there are a lot of things which are getting perpetrated here. But I was just wondering, with 44 people present here, I was counting them, now maybe plus minus another 5, and these 5 who are sitting on the dais, and with a population of 1293 million people, where are we? How much of this voice is heard outside? How much of what we are going to talk about is going to impact the outside world? Suddenly a sobering thought came upon me, the thoughts of Swami Vivekananda. It doesn't matter if the numbers are actually 20, 30 or 40 or even thousands, as not far from here you will find thousands of people have actually gathered because of the annual convention which is going on. The topic is very important. The topic concerns you and me, which is why, like a common man, I was also interested in this topic. Let me begin with a small episode, and the episode goes back to what the world knows as 9/11 event. The 9/11 event is very well known around the globe. 11th of September 2001, something harrowing took place here, and the harrowing event, of course, was the Twin Towers of WTC was pulled down in New York, and the whole world watched that in horror. We all watched on the television. Little did we realize that actually what was happening in front of us in the mightiest of the countries of the world, namely USA. But do we know that in the same month, on the same day, the same 11th of September, The year was different, yes, you are right. 1893, the Chicago Parliament of Religions took place, of course. On the same day, that was the opening day, continued for 6 more days, and 27th it ended, 1893. But on that same day, something very interesting happened. The young monk called Vivekananda was addressing the public there, and as reports go, about 7,000 people in the art hall in Chicago had assembled, and these 7,000 people were listening to the young monk who was in his lifetime was speaking only for the second time. Only for the second time he was doing public speaking, and the first time he had done 3 months before that in Secunderabad in India. So he was not a public speaker. He was not a person who was a demagogue who can actually persuade people through his talk and words. And what did he start with? That also the whole world knows. The sisters and brothers of America. These were the 3 words. But the moment he mentioned that sisters and brothers of America, the 7,000 people actually rose to their feet and started clapping. And as the newspaper reporting goes, it continued for 2.5 to 3 minutes. The clapping went on. Do you know why the clapping so spontaneously it continued for so long? Not very far to seek actually. The reason is not very far to seek. Essentially because of the fact, for the first time, the Westerners were listening to the words sisters and brothers of America from a monk. So long, they were actually exposed to what they are called, that they are all sinners as human beings, and they can only be redeemed, and the redemption can come only through the monks of some faith. And in that region, that place in the world, of course, it happened to be the Christians. So therefore, a priest has to be there, and the priest will connect you to God, and it is only through the priest that you can actually aspire for deliverance. But here is a man, he is using the words sisters and brothers. He didn't say sons and daughters or daughters and sons. Why did he say sisters and brothers? He said sisters and brothers, obviously, what Mr. Rack also was saying, because he, in his own mind, was absolutely certain that everyone present there is on the same pedestal. So by putting actually all the audience in the same pedestal, he brought them in unison with his own thought process. And the rest 6 lectures that he delivered, these are all parts of well-established history. Most of the things that he talked about was not the preaching in order to convert people, in order to show the supremacy of Hinduism, because the brand of Hinduism that he was practicing, and there are some Hindu monks also who are gone from India. He had said that, well, I am a Vedantist. And what is a Vedantist according to him? Actually, the 3rd lecture, the first lecture was this, and then on the first day's lecture when it ended, the next day was very interesting. The next day was why we disagree. The second day's lecture was on the 15th of September, 1890. And the talk was entitled Why We Disagree. Very interesting, because there is a frog. He talks about a frog which is in the well. And then one day a frog from the ocean is supposed to have fallen into that well. And the frog from the well asks the frog from the ocean, where are you from? He said, I am from the ocean. Then the frog from the well says, ocean, where is that? Is it as large as this well? Is it as large as this well? So Vivekananda says, today's problem of religion or religious dogmatism is primarily because of this kind of thing. We do not know the other man's views. I don't have to repeat what the words were spoken by my previous speaker. So the interesting aspect is, how do you first of all reconcile, therefore, the so-called religions, and is it actually in conflict with reasoning? Is it in conflict with rationalization, and so on? Basically, the way I perceive and the way many people do, And when I say many people, interestingly, if you look at what Bertrand Russell, the way he has interpreted the Ramakrishna's versions or Vivekananda's, Ramakrishna was not a person who was well versed with all the religious scriptures and the scientific treatises of the world. No. So what was his expression of so many religions? Very simple. There is sun there, I put a bucket, I put another utensil, I put a third utensil, and there is a pond. I do see the reflection of the sun in every one of them. And I do call my God is the sun in my utensil. I do not know that there is actually the source of all that is somewhere else. And that is where the conflict begins. Basically, actually, Swamiji's reference was on that second lecture. The third one on the Hinduism, that's very interesting, because his brand of Hinduism is not the brand that we see today. The most important thing is, when we talk of this kind of religion, and when you talk of a mantra drashta, that's what we refer to our ancestors as. You are not only chanting a mantra, so you chant a mantra when you believe in that. And when you believe in that, basically you are communicating or communicating with God, then only and only then can you say you are a mantra drashta. So, etc., it goes on and on. Then on the fifth day, very interestingly again, he talks of Buddhism. He devotes a full talk to Buddhism as a fulfillment of Hinduism. That's very interesting. And he begins by saying, I'm not a Buddhist. And by the same token, I'm also not a Hindu by the common parlance. So he says, I talk of Buddhism as a highly rational religion as it started. And then of course he does refer to the devotees of Buddha, and he says that well, some of them did or did not understand what Buddha said. So when you say Buddham Saranam Gacchami, Sangham Saranam Gacchami, now when you talk of this, the Buddha that we understand, or Bodhisattva is one who is seeking for knowledge. Buddha is one who is supposed to have acquired already knowledge. So when Buddham Saranam Gacchami doesn't necessarily say that you should follow the Buddha. It only says that you should follow your intellect. And that's what today's talk is all about. When you say the Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, not Dharamam Saranam Gacchami, the way we say it today is the Dharma as it is ceremonized by you and me. The Dharma, if I go to Lingaraj temple or Jagannath temple, I put 108 flowers on the Lord Shiva, for me that is Dharma, let us say. So that's a ceremony. But religion is way of life. So therefore what happens is, when you say that Dhammam Saranam Gacchami, Dhamma is a doctrine. So, but what kind of doctrine is this? This is the doctrine of love, the doctrine of truth, the doctrine of humanism which was alluded to, and so on and so forth. So therefore, when Buddha said that you should go and take shelter on the pedestal of truth, on the pedestal of humanism, who would deny that? And the last thing is even more interesting. Sangham Saranam Gacchami. Well, Dhamma or Dharma also. Dharayati iti Dharma. So one who actually combines is Dharma, not one who actually essentially destroys. So therefore, to our ancestors, the Dharma that we talked of, the Vedantic Dharma that we talked of, it always talked of the uniting religions. So the other thing I talked about is the Sangham Saranam. What is Sangha there? The Sangha is not necessarily a Bauddha Vihara. By the way, it might please Mr. Nayak to know that not far from here, 85 kilometers from here, we have the three hamlets which are famous the world over as the Buddhist hamlets. Ratnagiri, Udayagiri, Lalitgiri. Excavations are going on even today. And there was a university there. The university was known as Pushpagiri University. And that existed for 1000 years from 1st century AD till the 10th century AD. We talk of Nalanda. Yes. Nalanda was a great heritage of India, which also existed for 700 years, but it came in the 5th century. Or Bikramshila. Now these are great heritages. But here is a university for 1000 years, in Orissa we don't even do any research on that. People even do not know. that there was a university here. And this university attracted disciples from 55 countries. And what were they studying? They were not studying only grammar and philosophy. They were certainly studying something else. Because the temples were getting erected around Bhubaneswar, Puri and elsewhere. And the temple architecture, the civil engineering, and I'm a metallurgist by profession, by the way. By my IIT exposure and so on, and my years of teaching in IIT and here also. Basically, I'm a material scientist. So I do see the temples in Orissa, like Konark, had the iron beams, which are very unique in their construction capabilities. So these students were studying that also. So basically that means what? It was a Buddha Vihara. So the Buddhists also were all encapsulating to the extent that they were prepared to accept students from everywhere. Professor Amartya Sen actually makes a reference to, in the science congress in Chennai, he was making a reference to the Nalanda University, which attracted students even from China. And then he said that Chinese government, they then used to send actually students outside China very rarely. So this was one of those rare situations where the Chinese students came. But we are told Fire and others also came here. Whether they studied in Pushpagiri, I would not know. But they certainly came to Orissa because they have described Konark temple in all its grandeur of 238 feet. Today the temple doesn't exist anymore. Let me return therefore to today's topic. So the topic is basically non-violence part. So the non-violence is somewhere, basically it talks of truth, perhaps. We don't know ahimsa when you say in Hindi or Sanskrit. It conveys something more. I'll come to that a little later. Let me conclude that Chicago thing. So on the 5th day after the Buddhist thing, on the 6th day, on the 27th of September, Swamiji or Vivekananda actually ends his talk. When he ends his talk, the last lines are very interesting. He says, what was alluded to also, that when the Parliament of Religion started, some of the religions thought that their religion would be established as the religion. The whole world would accept it. But when it is ending, Swamiji says that, well, I know that I don't think over these 6 days or 7 days, we have come to the conclusion that one religion is superior to the other one, or my religion is better than your religion, and so on and so on. Instead, what does he say? He says that what the world today wants is actually assimilation and not destruction. It wants actually peace and not dissension. And it wants actually help, and it doesn't want essentially what you call dislocate somebody. So basically all religions must combine into humanism. But when you talk of the word ahimsa, non-violence, and as Mr. Beura, Avasar Babu was referring to Mahatma Gandhi. Gandhiji was not the innovator of the word or inventor of the word ahimsa. We know that. What did Gandhiji do? The word ahimsa basically came from Mahavir, the great Jain Tirthankar, 24th Tirthankar. So ahimsa word was used by him. But the basic difference is, the word ahimsa, non-violence, Gandhiji was the one who elevated it. Yes, practicing comes a little later, but most important is, he elevated it from the individual to the social, metaphysical, political. So that when he started practicing it, he could say this can be a practical word or practical way to live. So ahimsa is not only a concept. So that actually set me to think, and all of you, we know, violence or non-violence, both of them, it begins only in the mind. It doesn't begin with action. When somebody goes and kills another person, yes, that can be a hot-blooded kind of thing. On the spur of the moment, somebody is provoked and kills. But when it is a cold-blooded one, most of the time that takes place, obviously he has hatched up a plan and then he has executed it. So in such a case, everything actually starts in the mind. So that Gandhiji's point of view is very interesting, because all of us, we know in South Africa, whatever he was essentially doing, the satyagraha, was a part of the non-violence. So to him, if non-violence is primarily love of man, satyagraha, the word satyagraha is satya agraha. That means what? as Miguel said, clinging to truth. Agraha is to cling, to adhere. So clinging to truth is basically what Satyagraha is all about. And mind you, one who is not dogmatically following a religious ceremony would never be opposed to it. There are many examples. I will cite just one example. 3 years back, one of the monks, he is today I think about 42, 43. His name is Mohan Maharaj, M-A-H-A-N. Those of you who are mathematicians would know this name very well. This gentleman is from Bengal. He studied in IIT Kanpur mathematics, topped the course in mathematics, went to US, did his MS, PhD. He was studying actually electrical engineering, changed over to pure mathematics. Came back to India, joined as a faculty member, a lecturer in the Institute of Mathematics in Chennai, gave up everything, renunciation, and then he joined the monk, as a monk, Ramakrishna Mission, and got Bhatnagar Award 3 years back in geometry, space geometry. This guy, this monk actually got Bhatnagar Award. What is he doing currently? Currently he is in a sabbatical leave. I asked one of the Belur monks, Maharaj, where is Manak Maharaj now? Manak Maharaj. He said, he is on a sabbatical. I said, oh, he has left the Ramakrishna order. He said, no, he has not left. He is very much in the ashrama there in Bombay, in Ramakrishna Mission Ashram, but he is connected with the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, TIFR. What I am trying to tell you is, when he was interviewed, many times he has been interviewed, he has said, well, I don't see why you are making such a great fuss about me winning the Bhatnagar Award and writing 2 books which have been published by University of California in Berkeley on geometry, very complicated and complex geometry, and my practicing of religion and seeking the truth, because both are seeking the truth. Basically, whether if you are a humanist, a religious person, and you are a scientist, both of you are doing the same thing, namely seeking the truth. So there is no basic conflict in the truth. This is the most important thing. As long as I believe that the truth and non-knowledge, etc., they are all embedded in my brand of religion. So when Mahatma Gandhi talked of Satyagraha, clinging to truth, for him, clinging to the truth is nothing but love in action. Nothing but love in action. Because if you have love for somebody, you can't kill him. You can't have violence. So therefore, if you put succinctly, Satyagraha is truth force. Satyagraha is also the soul force, but basically it is the action in love. So that action of love, how do you generate? The most important thing is, we heard some of the problems today, the maladies of the society, as my previous very old speaker was speaking. I was trying to find out, how does one actually actionize what you are telling here, namely creating a violence-free society or world through compassion and reason. So do you go to every person and say, develop compassion and reason? And what is reason? If you say my reason is this, his reason will be different. So these are some of the dilemmas. So how do you actually get started? You get started basically exactly what Gandhiji did. When it becomes actually a force in the society. That means more and more people should be able to see your reason. So my advice, it's not advice because I'm not in a position to actually advise anyone. So people like Nihar Babu, whenever we hold a seminar such as this has been held with a lot of sincerity. I compliment you. But at the same time, any such kind of arrangements where a number of people have come, many of you are extremely busy people who have come here, you must see a blueprint of action. We must see a blueprint of action as to what's happening after this, in the next month and then next month and so on. A, what is our target? B, what is our blueprint? C, what are the enablers? D, what is the timeline? Then and only then can we see that there is something where everything is charted out. Otherwise, this is just going to be a drop. I take some photographs and we go on speaking here, which I am quite sure now it is close to 1 o'clock, nothing would enter your head also. But if 1 or 2 words remain, and then we have a plan for the future, then those of you who are present here, particularly the younger people, not the Septuagenarians like me, that the young people who are present